We're Chris and Sandy Bent with the Chris and Sandy Show. We get up close and personal with some amazing guests throughout the entertainment industry. And today, like I say on every episode, we got a great one for you. Who do we have?
We have Lyn Gold with us today. She is an author, editor, and the founder of yogicwriting.com, a practice that utilizes the philosophies and tools of yoga, meditation, and journaling for writers of all levels to heal, reveal, and leave a legacy through writing life stories. She is also the author of That's Why We're Here, Stories from Passionate James Taylor Fans.
And that's why we're here. Welcome to the show.
Yes, welcome.
Perfect introduction. As you can tell from my JT hat, right?
Yes, love it.
So I always like to start the show out the same way. Everybody has been affected in their own way from COVID.
Oh, yes, we all have.
So how has COVID affected you, and what have you done this last 18 months to kind of get through all this?
Oh, thanks for asking that, Chris and Sandy. I'm a fan of your show, and I hear you asking that all the time. And I love that question because I love hearing everybody's responses. You know, I mean, we've all been in this together and we've all had different ways to approach it. And, you know, I remember, you guys probably remember too, I live in Rhode Island, and I remember the day that our governor shut everything down.
Oh, yeah.
And March, I think it was Friday the 13th, I have in my head. It was March.
Oh, wow.
Right? And I remember looking at my calendar because I had a whole, like, I was really full that spring with writing retreats and yoga retreats and writing class and visiting my grandkids. Like, I had all this stuff on my calendar. And I remember just going through, going delete, delete, delete.
Wow.
You know, like everything just ending. And it was really traumatic. It was really like, oh my God, what is happening? Well, it was scary. So what did I do? I do the same thing that I do every time I feel fearful and scared, and I listen to James Taylor music and I write. Writing is a very healing process. And I'm like, you know what am I going to do? So I just started writing. And then what I did in terms of the last 18 months or a little longer now is I invited other people to come write with me. And I connected. I wrote to my friends, my family, the fans that, you know, fellow James Taylor fans that I communicate with on my Facebook page. I wrote to all of them and I said, let's write together, guys. Let's do this. So I created this group called Corona Chronicles in Facebook.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And every day I came and I offered a writing prompt, and we all wrote, so that we were writing stories about how we were feeling, what we were going through, stories from our childhood, you know, just to feel connected because we were so alone.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stories that my James Taylor buddies wrote ended up being, you know, in my book, because I was like, I want to share these stories.
Wow.
Because they were beautiful. And so that's how I survived, and I'm still doing that. And,
you know, like that's like for us, you know, when we launched the show January 2020.
We did.
And the original plan was maybe 100 interviews our first year. We thought if we could do that, be a great first year, great foundation. And then COVID happens. And I'm sitting there watching the whole entertainment industry get shut down.
Oh, I know.
And I told Sandy, I was like, you know, we can't change COVID, but this could be our silver lining. You know, we're already doing the show anyway. Now we need to reach out to bigger people because they might be more apt to come on a brand new show. And because of that, we did over 300 interviews last year. And we're over 460 now.
Wow.
So this show sort of saved our sanity through the
we've been able to, you know, again, everybody's shut down. So we, in fact, I remember we had, I think it was Jenny Gill. If I remember correctly, I remember on her Facebook page, she made a comment before she came on our show, which she's Vince Gill's daughter. And I remember she made a comment saying that when we'll be on this show, they better look out because I ain't been able to talk to people.
Yes, to have an adult
conversation in forever. And she goes, it's all coming out. So we've been able to get to hear all these stories and talk to people and all these different people and different walks of life from, you know, from people we highly respect to people that we never knew until the show.
Yes. And that's what that has been the silver lining, just to be able to just, you know, I mean, to share with so many people that you wouldn't like, you're not going to get on a plane and go jumping to different states and different countries. And yet here we can get on Zoom or your platform and say, hi, here I am, and that definitely has been a silver lining. And just knowing that everyone is sharing, I just think it's so interesting. The whole world was sharing this experience, it was such a universal
because
thing.
not just a U.S. thing.
It wasn't just my state or your state. It was everybody. So we were all like, "Ooh, how are you doing? How are you doing?" I could talk, I could ask people that like you said, people that I would never have gotten the opportunity to talk to before and just say, "How are you doing?" And they knew exactly what I meant because they were going through the same thing I was going through. So as a storyteller and as somebody who loves listening to stories like you and me, it was just like, oh, this is really a weird way to say it, but it's a gift,
Yeah.
Yes.
And, I think it brought us all closer together. Now, granted, some points have split us apart, but I think that if you get off social media, you actually find we're more connected than ever.
Yes. I think so too. I totally agree with that. And I've just cultivated some really great relationships that I never would have, before.
Exactly.
Craziness not happened. So, I mean, I've been a crazy James Taylor fan for years and years, way before COVID, but this just even amplified it. So.
Now, before we get into the book a little bit, tell us a little bit of your backstory. What brought you to this point?
Sure. Well, I've always been a writer. I started writing when, when I was 6 years old. I got that little diary, that's diary, right? So, I mean, I've always been a writer. I've always liked to write what's going on during the day or how I feel, and that's always been something that's been really important to me. And then when I got older, and I was going through some really difficult moments in my teenage life, like many of us have in the 70s. It became my blessing to be able to write down what I was going through and to really heal from it. So I always knew there was this connection between writing and healing. And then as I got older, I went through a really bad depression and some, mental illness. And again, the writing helped me. And then I was introduced to yoga at a later age, not until I was in my mid 40s. And I was introduced to yoga and meditation. And then all of a sudden it was like, wow, I can befriend some of these things that were really scary to me because I was able to express them in a way. And it turned out that the more I did yoga and meditation, the better my writing became because it just became more, I don't know, authentic and more truthful. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I have to tell people about this. Like I felt like I wanted to scream it to the world. So that's what I started doing. So I started teaching classes and I got my yoga certification and meditation and all of that. And then I started teaching classes to people about this connection between yoga, meditation, and writing. And I always say like it just kind of saved my life because it was a way that I could share my life stories that some of them were very difficult, but it was a way that I could share them in a safe way and teach people how to share theirs. Yeah. I love hearing people's stories. So they're like, oh, I'm blocked. I don't know how to tell this. It's too difficult. I'm going through a really hard time. And I'd be like, you know what? I can help you with that. So I would lead them into some meditation and some breath work. And then we were able to, people were able to share their stories. So that's how it went. And that's what yoga writing is. So,
tell us, I seen that you wrote comment that James Taylor's music kind of in your teen years saved you. Tell us about that. How because again, he has that power of connection. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Chris, he so has that power of connection. I am not the only one out there, which I learned the more I talked to people, the more I talked to James Taylor fans. So what happened for me was when I was 13, 14, I was going through a really difficult time. My parents were getting divorced. I was in a really traumatic, bad relationship. And I was really depressed and quite frankly, suicidal. I mean, I was not in a good place. And I just remember to this day, one day I walked into my music class and I'd never heard of James Taylor before. And I walked into my music class and my music teacher, and this was in the 70s, the early 70s, she came in with her, embroidered shirt, blouse, and the guitar strapped, this kind of hippie thing. And she said, "Okay, everyone, I want you to hear a new musician that I found."
Oh,
And
wow.
she put the record player on, and she put on the song "Fire and Rain." And I don't know, right?
Wow.
So I'm in the back of the room, just feeling like life was just the pits. And I hear this song, and I hear this singer, and I'm like, "What is that?" And I just kind of edged my way to the front of the room to hear it. And I just I felt like he was singing to me. I felt like he was writing the song for me. And I was like, "Oh my God, I am not the only one that feels like this," And I felt so connected. And I thought that it gave me hope. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Somebody else feels like this. I can emerge from this. So what I did was I went right away to the music store. I said, "Who's James Taylor? I wanted, whatever records he's put out." And by that time, he had already put out 2, Sweet Baby James. And
What about them all?
Yeah. And he's a friend, and so I got both of those records. The owner of the record store was the sweetest man, and I didn't have any money. And he said, "Take it home, pay me when you can." Who does that anymore, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I took it home and I listened to every single song, and I just started writing and writing and writing about how I was feeling and how I felt more hopeful because his words and the music. And then I left the journal out opened in hopes that my mother would read it. My mother at this point was working 2-3 jobs, trying to keep ends meet. She had 4 children. My father had left, and she read the journal that night, and she helped me get the help that I needed. So from that on, I was able to, to change my life. So that's why I say, if it wasn't for that song, if it wasn't for James Taylor in that moment,
wow,
I don't know. I know I get sad when
things could have been different.
Girl.
So if you're watching this live or replay, be sure to share this, like, comment, all the works. You know the drill. Subscribe. But so let's talk a little bit about the book. Where did the idea originally come from? I mean, and has the book caused you to meet James Taylor?
Well, here's the book. That's what it looks like, and I just love the picture. You can see my hat, right? My husband took this picture. I'm very proud of that. I've since I became a fan, I've always been, every time I go to a concert, and Chris, Sandy, I have been to more concerts than care to share, because people think I'm crazy when I say it, but I've probably been to 60 or 70 different concerts of James Taylor. And he is the most generous performer. So every time, except now because of COVID, he's not allowed to. Usually during intermission at the end of the concert, he usually comes out on the stage. He'll shake anyone's hand who comes there. He'll take your picture. He'll give you a hug. I mean, he's just a wonderful, wonderful man and very generous. And so I have met him in that way.
Yeah.
That's in a way, face to face, like you and me. I wish I could, but I often in that regard. And I tell him every time, I just say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I offer him my gratitude. And every time I'm in a concert, the person next to me, "Do you love James Taylor? What's your story? Do you love James Taylor?" And we share stories, And then in 2015, I created a Facebook page called Life with James Taylor. And I started sharing some of these stories on the page. And then I would share videos of him or pictures, or what's your favorite story? What's your favorite song? And just engage people. And now there's about 24,000 people on that page. And we're all engaged. We're all going, "Oh, did you see last night in Salt Lake? Did you see his son plays with him now?" He's like our, I don't know. I'm not old enough for him to be my son, but he feels like a family.
Yes. Like family. Yeah.
So we're all sharing these stories. And as I said, during COVID, I was even reaching out to more people, and they were sharing more stories about how his music was so healing. So that's when I said, "You know what? I really want to share these stories with more people than just Facebook." So that's why I created a book, and I picked out some of my favorites. So many people emailed me their stories, and I couldn't include them all, but I did pick out some of my favorites. And I even put, some pictures, like selfies that people take, because he loves selfies. James Taylor loves it when you take a selfie. Cool. So I put it all together, and because I'm a writer and an editor, I did some editing and and made the book. So, and I'm super proud of it because the people that are in it, there's about 80 contributors to the book.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So what's like
That's
a
lot.
brief overview of one or two stories that
stand out?
that stand out?
Yeah. I've included a wide range. There's someone from Italy. There's someone from Portugal. There's a lot from the U.S., East Coast, West Coast. I think some of the more sensitive stories are people that are dealing with cancer or dealing with some illness, or their child is autistic and they can't speak, but they sing James Taylor songs because somehow they can do that. Mm-hmm. Or my friend Paula, she's her picture's in the back of the book. When she's a breast cancer survivor, and she said what keeps her going is she wants to get to 100 shows. And she told him that one. And he said to her, what happens when you get to 100? And she said, we start all over again.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
Stories like that. There's stories where he's just kind of a beacon for healing and to help them keep going. And then there's stories of crazy people that are like, that go to as many concerts as they can, or as many pictures as they can, find him on the Jay Leno show or this or that. So there's kind of a wide variety of like.
So have you found any stories? Of course, they wouldn't probably make it in the book, that where you've read and you're like, okay, this may be more of a stalker story.
Yeah, I have. I am not a stalker, and I always say my family teases me all the time. They're like, "You're a JT stalker." I said, "No, I'm not. I really am not. I respect his privacy and do not stalk." But you're right, Chris. There are some stories that pass my way that, like, well, I found out where he lived, and I went in his mail, and I'm like, they're not going to. But
what's funny about that? People probably almost think we would be stalked. We were in Nashville. We went to Nashville 4 times this year because we're planning on eventually moving there. And with Nashville, they got websites that tell you where some of the country music celebrities live. So she looked up Big Riches from
Big Kenny.
Big Kenny from Big and Rich.
That was one of the first ones that
and
popped up.
She found an address. So we get there. And we see the house. We're kind of sitting in front of it, and this car starts to come by us, and window rolls down. And I'm thinking, okay, that this person's probably going to ask us, "Is that Big Kenny's house?" I thought, And she was like, "May I help you?" And I'm like not sure what to do here because we're like stalking, we're not stalking. And all I could think about, we was just we seen that this was Big Kenny's house. We kind of wanted to see it, and and she goes, "Well, great. Any message?" And I'm sitting there thinking, first thing coming to my mind is tell him Chris and Sandy from the Chris and Sandy show.
He's gonna be like, who are these crazy people?
And then we drove off, and it's funny because us and our little Chris, our 9-year-old, and of course,
he's a big country music fan too.
Of course, she wouldn't know this, but she'll have that story. But we have that story that almost is like stalkerish, but it was just an innocent thing. I didn't think somebody was gonna. We were just going real slow by the driveway, kind of looking, and we were about to drive off when that car stopped.
That's great. That's so fun. One of the stories in here, it's funny, reminds me of that. One of the stories, another contributor, my friend Chris Craig, he was in a restaurant, and he lives in he used to live, this was years ago, in a town in Connecticut. I remember the name, that James Taylor also had a home in at the time. He doesn't anymore. Okay. And he was in a restaurant, and he noticed that Livingston Taylor, who was James Taylor's brother, was over there. And he's like, "Oh, isn't that interesting? That's Livingston Taylor." And sure enough, in walks in James and sits at the restaurant. And he had his daughter was, I think, 3 years old at the time. And she was like throwing peas over to the table like that, and trying to get their attention. He's like, stop. And his wife, and you're making her do that just so that they come over here so you can meet him.
Oh, that's funny.
I mean, the bottom line is they're people too. They're going to restaurants. They're, they're doing their thing. They have homes, but we don't stalk, but there are stories where people they've met him in one other woman at a gas station. So it's really kind of funny because we think that they're like in their own little home and they don't go out and they don't do anything, but living the life, right? We're all
good people too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, because I know that you read online on some of these blogs and stuff that because in Nashville you're apt to see somebody, and it's like that don't be like overly
just
that
be
just be respectful of their time,
treat them like a
and
person,
and treat them like a human, because again, Nashville's one of them places like LA where you could be anywhere and all of a sudden you see some
store, restaurant,
absolutely, yeah, and I always think that too. I always think, how come I can't just go into a market and have James Taylor's over there buying something?
We've been in Nashville for four times this year, a total about 3 weeks. So we've been there 5 days here, 5 days there. And we're like, we have yet to spot it. And I was like, that's just not happened to us yet. Well, eventually, I mean, when we move there, I'm sure it'll start happening, but us visiting, it's not happening.
It's a fun place. You're going to have fun living. I've only been to Nashville once, but the energy there, the music all the way,
the vibe, with music everywhere.
I know a lot of people who's been there for years hates Broadway, but we're like, you know what? You can't go to Nashville without at least experiencing Broadway on a Friday or Saturday night. One time. I mean, even if you don't like crowds. It's just and something I didn't know, I'd never seen before, and this was really cool. Now, some people would think this is something stupid, but it was like when you're on Broadway and you're about to cross the roads. In most cities that you got the crosswalk this way and the crosswalk this way, but many times you have to cross and then cross. Well, they have diagonal crosses too.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we'd never seen that before.
So if you're at one end and you got to get over that way, you don't have to go that way. You can just go straight across.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So if you see somebody over there, you don't have to go the long way to get his autograph.
Yeah, exactly.
You just cut across. Yeah.
And they have a walk, and it's like everybody takes their turn, or supposed to take their turns. You know how people who are at red, waiting to cross, they don't always wait, but everybody's supposed to take their turns, and it all will work out the way it's supposed to.
That's funny. Yeah, that's great. Oh, that's a cool place to live. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your journey since you wrote the book.
Yeah. Well, because again, COVID, right? Here we are in COVID. We're trying to little by little, I feel like little by little, we're starting to get out again. I mean, I went for I live in Rhode Island. My grandkids live in Virginia. So that was the hardest thing, to not be able to just visit them as often as I would like. But little by little, we're getting out. And so little by little, I'm able to just kind of do more things in person. And that always helps, especially with my writing business too. I was doing more retreats, and now I'm able to kind of do more of that in person. So I'm still leery, it's still here. We're still trying to be careful and all of that kind of stuff. But I am starting to do more, getting out more. And as far as the book goes, I'm trying to do publicity in the way that I really want these people that have been so generous with their stories, and they're beautiful, they're very heartwarming stories. And I want to do it for them. I mean, this isn't just like there's 80 people in here that have shared their very intimate stories.
It would be cool. And again, you have, you never know, you can make this work, is to do a little event for the 80 people.
Yeah.
And have James Taylor show up.
Oh my gosh. Can you make that happen for me?
That would be amazing. Yeah.
I can look up his people's contacts for you and shoot it over to you.
Right.
Because again, you just never know. I mean, that might be something that he would love to do, and not open up to the public, but to the people that really shared their stories to that book.
I like the way you think. Yep. He's on tour right now, actually, because again, all of those concerts were canceled, and I've been holding tickets for years, and so now the tours are starting up again, and so he's on tour now. I think he's in Salt Lake City tonight. I don't remember, but I've seen 3 of the shows. I saw the opening night in Chicago, and then another one in Detroit, and another one in Maryland, and now then they took a break, and now they're again. And every single time when he's in one of the areas that, one of the contributors live in or something like that, I say, bring the book. He's not allowed to come out now. They don't want everybody to come out, but I'm like, bring the book. You never know, maybe you'll get it.
You never know.
Or, look at it.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we're hoping, because while he's on tour, that would be a great way to,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, you can always dream, because like with us, we, as our show rises and we're getting bigger and bigger guests, we still have our dream guests. Like, one of our dream guests would be like Blake Shelton.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Steve Harvey would be another really great one. Tyler Perry.
Vince Gill, go for it.
Oh yeah.
So we do
and James Taylor.
Yep, and James Taylor. We would love to have him on. So again, it's great to dream. It's great to keep that ideal out there, because the day could run where you cross paths in a way, and if you don't have that book,
that's right.
It would be great to be able to say, "Hey, here's a book about fans about you."
That's right. Who wouldn't love that, right? Who wouldn't love that?
That's an amazing thing.
Nobody is saying anything, negative. I mean, I wouldn't have put it in if it was negative, but nobody has anything negative to say anyway. They're all stories, as I shared my personal story, where they're all stories like, he gets me, or he wrote this song for me, or his, there's a couple stories in there too, where this one woman, her father passed away, and he was a huge James Taylor fan, and they actually engraved his tombstone with some of the lyrics of a song that meant so much to him. You know what I mean? So, I mean, they're all stories that, man, if it were me, I would just like give everyone a big hug, because they're all just so, like, thank you. And he is a very humble man, and I do know that from everything that I know about him. And like I said, so generous with his fans. So of course, this is just a big love fest, this is just a big thank you letter to him. And so, yeah.
What's funny is, after this episode, I'm actually going to go and email his people. See if I can get them on the show. Yeah. I mean, I've emailed. I've emailed Justin Bieber's people, Taylor Swift's people, Ariana Grande. I have went to the top, because again, it's a twofold thing. One day they're going to say yes, and the most important right now is, at least their people will watch our show and say, and keep it in mind for down the road
about us.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's like it's like how we started the show. We're all people. We're all in the same boat. We're all dealing with so many similar things. And when somebody reaches out to you, they're not doing it out of malice. They're just doing it out of, kind of a mutual respect thing. And you never know. You never know if somebody's going to say, well, that was really nice. Sure, not. You're not asking for money. You're asking for, just, hi, how are you? You're asking for connection. So, I wonder if somebody just wrote, shoot for the stars. Somebody just put in the chat there, that's it. Yep. Shoot for the stars. Don't shoot the stars.
Yeah, I like the old saying, shoot for the moon, because even if you miss, you'll land among the stars.
There you go.
That's a great saying.
There you go. My kids are crazy. I have 3 kids. Well, they're all grown now. My youngest is 22. And they've been growing up with this. They've been growing up with me singing things to them, and I,
do they ever say, when they were younger, did they ever say, Mom, please?
Oh, all the time. You're crazy. I go, no, I'm not crazy. I just I love it. I sing his songs. I respect him. And when I bring things like this book that he wrote, a picture book for children, and I had him sign it. And this is a photograph that I have. So it's all in good fun. It's all just out of, it's just out of respect and out of just a genuine love in that way.
Absolutely.
And you love to write. So see, it goes.
It's a perfect fit there.
Yes.
And speaking of writing, did you always know you wanted to be an author?
Always. And I started out with, I've written other books besides this one. I started out writing for children, actually. That was my
okay.
So I was writing for children, magazine articles. I wrote a biography about Steve Wozniak, the person who started Apple Computer. So then I got into more technical writing. I wrote a book about adoption. My husband and I adopted our middle daughter, and I wrote a book about that process of adoption. So I've always, whatever I'm going through, I always feel the need to to write about it in a way to share it, because other people, even with the adoption book too, other people have said that it was a book about the process of adoption, what you go through emotionally.
wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And so people connect with that. And that's always been something that I've wanted to do, is that's how I connect with people, through my writing. So
We're writing a book called The Unlikely Show.
Yeah,
the story behind this,
because starting the show.
There was no reason that we should even thought about starting a show. We never been in radio, never been in TV,
no experience.
It was just a crazy idea that we had. Yeah. And little did we know that COVID would kind of be the game changer,
the catalyst, I guess,
for the show. And it's been a whirlwind here of the guests that we've been able to bring on.
Yeah, we pinch ourselves. We can't believe
that's so awesome. That's so awesome. And you're showing, you said you have a son? You have a
We do. Yes, we have a 9-year-old.
Speaking of him.
Oh, yes.
Perfect introduction. We all, as if you've watched some of the other ones, he comes on to ask a couple of questions. So Sandy's going to get him.
Yes, his name's Christopher. He's 9 years old.
Oh, I love it. Bring him on. Bring Chris.
He's kind of our third co-host. So while she's getting him, tell us a little bit about the team that helps you be who you are.
The team?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, the team behind you.
The team behind me. Well, who's the team behind me? The team behind me is my family. The team behind me is my husband. He's a classical guitarist, actually. So, yeah. So we enjoy music together. I have 3 kids. I have 4 grandkids. 3 sisters, a brother. My mom is still kicking. My mom right now is traveling in France. She's 81 years old and having
wow.
time. Yeah. So my family is, look at him. How cute. He's even wearing your same shirt. Look at you, Chris Jr.
Yeah.
Aren't you? Aren't you cute? Nothing better than Yes. My team is my family, just like I can see yours is too.
Yeah, we're a family affair show. So
I love it. I just love it.
All right. Huh?
What's up?
Oh, it's going great. Hi, Rebecca. So what's your favorite food?
What's my favorite food?
Yes.
What's my favorite food? That's a great question, because I like a lot of food. So do you? I like Greek food.
Yeah.
Have you ever had Greek food? Have you ever had Greek food?
I don't think he has.
Never had Greek food? I love Greek food.
We'll have to try it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you ever go to a Greek restaurant, order something called moussaka. It's kind of a funny name, but it's delicious.
Yeah.
I think that's my favorite food.
And what's yours?
Mine is pizza.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
He would eat it all day long.
Oh, yes.
That's great.
Yeah. So what's your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show. Let's see. I watch a lot of Netflix now. I always laugh when I watch The Simpsons. That makes me laugh. I like to watch, what else? I was watching baseball until last night, until my team lost. So I'm a big fan. Red Sox lost last night. I watch a lot of Netflix shows, and I love movies. What's your favorite TV show?
Mine is SpongeBob.
Oh, great. Do you know Paw Patrol? Do you know Paw Patrol?
Yes, I watch it a lot.
That's my granddaughter's absolute favorite show. She loves Paw Patrol. She's trying to teach me how to sing the songs.
Gosh.
Your sister likes that one too.
Yeah.
She,
Yes.
Yeah, and our 2.5-year-old daughter Caitlin, her new thing is Peppa Pig.
Oh yeah, I've heard of Peppa Pig.
If she could be fully upset during her whole toddler tantrum, if you turn that on, it changes.
That's great. Don't you love it?
That's kind of our help sometimes.
Yeah, that's a babysitter. Peppa Pig's the babysitter. I love it.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your favorite movie?
My favorite. Oh my God, he's got tough questions. Tough questions. What's his favorite movie? What comes to mind? We've had. What's it? I haven't seen a movie in a long time. Oh my goodness. I think you're stumping me on that one. What's your favorite movie?
Mine is the Minions movie.
The Minions? Love that. I love Monsters Inc. You ever see that one? That's a good one.
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
You got to get that one. That's a good one on Netflix.
Minions has got a great brand, I tell you. We could be walking in a mall, and if Caitlin sees a Minion in a store, we have to go in there.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I'm gonna have to get my granddaughter on that one. I'm gonna have to pull her away from Paw Patrol and get her on the Minions.
Yeah.
They're fun.
Yes.
Mhm.
Bye, Nate.
Bye, honey. Thanks for popping in.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loves to be on the show. In fact, he loves the show so much that we're giving him a date for this. So next summer, we're going to have him launch a podcast.
Nice.
So
Awesome.
Yeah, his own thing, like a 10-minute thing. So
Yeah. And you could get some younger kids on too to talk with him too. That'd be fun for him.
yes, you enjoy that a lot. Okay, we're gonna put you on the spot here. What's your favorite James Taylor song?
Oh my goodness. I was waiting for that one because it's every day, right? It depends on what I'm doing. But I always come back to the same one. I would say Fire and Rain because that's the one that started it for me. That's when I first got connected. But I adore the song Secret of Life. Do you know that song from James Taylor?
That one I don't know yet.
It's not one of his most famous. He does always perform it in concert. But if for big James Taylor fans, we all know that song because that one's just one that's you just cry when you hear it or laugh.
We both like the How Sweet It Is.
Oh yes, and I love Carolina in My Mind.
People love Carolina in My Mind. There's so many.
You've Got a Friend. So many great ones.
But and there's speaking of You've Got a Friend, Carole King wrote that song and she sings it and James Taylor sings it. And I just a couple days ago launching a documentary about Carole King and James Taylor together.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it'll be on. I think it was HBO Max or CNN, like that.
Okay, definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, but You've Got a Friend has been one that a lot of people. I sorted the book by song title. So when I asked somebody, I said, "What's your favorite song?" Exactly like you just asked me. And there's 40 different chapters, and You've Got a Friend, I think, had the most stories. That one. You've Got a Friend, and some of them like Secret of Life, which was my favorite. I think there's just three stories. 3 people wrote for that.
Oh, wow.
So everyone has their own, and some of them are very obscure. Moon River, and some of them are the more famous. Yeah. But you know what? If he came on, I don't care what he would sing. I'd love it. Yeah. Call that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Call that one my
favorite. So yeah.
And what would you like for your legacy to be? What would you like to be most known and remembered for?
Oh, what a beautiful question. Thank you. I think I would most likely to be known and remembered for helping people express their life stories, express who they are and what how their life is and how they want to live their legacy, how they want to leave their legacy. I would love to be, I do that. I try to do that in my work as much as I can. And it gives me a lot of satisfaction when people are able to write their life stories, because sometimes it's difficult. We're all dealing with, difficult things.
Yeah, because I went through, part of our life story, which we tell it a lot, is, I went through 19 years of addictions until December 26, 2007. So I've been sober for 14 years, but the first 5 years of our marriage, it was really hectic on her. But, she loved me through the addictions. She allowed God to use her to heal me. Because again, I don't believe I would be here today if she didn't do what she did.
Beautiful. James Taylor's a recovering addict. Did you know that?
Oh, we didn't know that.
He talks about his recovery a lot. In fact, during this last tour, he got sober in the early 80s because he was a heroin addict for many years. And he got sober in the early 80s. And the song, That's Why I'm Here, refers to his recovery.
Oh, wow.
One stanza is about the death of John Belushi, and John Belushi basically died from a drug overdose, and he was friends with James, and he calls it, that's his moment of, what does he say, scared sober. That was the moment when he said, I'm going to be next unless I do something. And That's Why I'm Here is really dedicated to that and dedicated to his sobriety. And when he sings it on stage, he says, this is for everyone out there who's I'm getting chills. This is for everyone out there who is in recovery. and
Wow.
for us. And that's why I titled the book, That's Why We're Here.
Oh, yes.
That makes sense.
That
Right?
fits.
If it wasn't for that, then we wouldn't be here. And so his recovery and his sobriety he talks about a lot. He sings about it a lot, and he dedicates his songs to it. So good for you. Good for you, for both of you.
And I've always been the outcast person. I guess when you're creative, that's pretty much what you're always
me
outcast.
Too, when I was younger, definitely.
And so it's like this whole crazy life that we've lived. I remember when we first met because we met online in 2002 when it was taboo.
We did in the early days of online.
We met February 2nd of 2002, talked on the phone for the first time February 4th. We set a wedding date February 18th, and we met in person March 4th. So we were meeting in person to see who we were going to marry.
Yeah.
And people called us stupid. It'll never work. We're crazy. Yeah. I lost friends because of that. Oh, I can't be around you. You're too crazy. And here it is. 19 years later, married.
Almost 20 years
Almost
of
20, February 2nd would be 20 years of meeting. We do a crazy show that people also said would never work. We people said you'd never get anybody interesting on. We did. So it's like, our life has always been people telling us what we can't do, and we just go and do it anyway.
Good for you. That's wonderful. I love that. I love that story. You've been married 19 years, you said?
Yeah, October 5th.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. My husband and I were on 30. We celebrated 31 this year. So, and that's the other thing people always say, marriage, they're not going to last. They're not going to last. But, there are some that last. And
some do.
But it takes work. Again, you don't get in, the problem I think with marriage a lot of times is people get married and they're like, okay, the work is done because you got married. That's when the work starts because anybody can court somebody to marriage. I just, again, some people probably disagree with that, but I kind of think anybody can really court somebody to marriage. It's okay. Can you make marriage work for the long haul? Yeah. That's the work.
Yeah, that's right. And it's great that you can work together. My husband and I, we worked side by side for in fact, he works with me on my writing business because he does.
That's all we've known. And again, that's another thing that we're an outcast with. We've always been this 24/7 couple.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, you're not healthy. You're this, you're that.
You need some time
You need some time apart. And you know what? We're like, this works for us.
Yep. That's great. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, he comes with me to a lot of James Taylor concerts, and he does a lot of work for me on the back end for my writing business. And we're a team, just like the two of you. We're a team, and so that's feel blessed that that's the way it is.
Exactly. So as we come to a close here, any final parting words?
Let's just stay on for another hour. I'm really enjoying this.
This was fun.
Believe me, I could. And I remember when we first launched this show, it was audio only then.
Right.
But I've had to learn when to talk, when not to talk, because a lot of times back then, I would just talk and we'd end up at 90-minute shows.
We did a lot of times.
Just keep going and going. A friend of mine
I've done it all again.
As you can tell, he loves talking.
In the 19 years of our marriage, she would get upset sometimes with me, but I know that this was preparing us. We just didn't know it. We would be on the street and we'd end up in a conversation. And I'm talking with strangers, not with people that we know. And if we're 2, 3, 4 minutes in, she would know we're there 30, 60 minutes. No ifs, ands, buts. I can't pull away. And I've done that thousands of times. And here we are doing a show that we've done it same way.
Yeah, we sort of combined my love for music as a huge music entertainer
with my love of talking.
With his love of talking. That's what the show is.
A match made in heaven. A match made in heaven. Yep, perfect. In terms of closing, I guess the only thing I'd like to say is that I think people underestimate how important it is to share their stories, and I think that it's so important. Like you shared your story, Chris, of your recovery and your sobriety, and your story, the two of you together, and your strong marriage, and I shared my story, and and you feel connected when you share stories. And
you do.
Yeah.
A lot of people go, "Oh, who wants to hear my story? Who wants to hear my story?" And yet, I this book of stories of people that wanted to share their connection to James Taylor, and I think that it's just so important to know that there's always people that want to hear. We're all, you know, we're all in this together, not even just in COVID, but in general.
Yeah,
The stories matter.
they do. That's how we relate to each other.
I mean, you even look in the Bible days with Jesus. He did everything through stories.
That's right.
Because stories connect, like you said, they connect people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's how we learn about so many things, you know, and just from stories. So I think that's a great bottom line, what you just said. Stories matter.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a great way to end. So tell everybody how they can get your book and find you.
So on Facebook, my Facebook page is called Life with James Taylor. It's a Facebook group. It's open to anybody. And I have a website that's called Life with James Taylor. And you can come on to that, lifewithjamestaylor.com. And that's where you can get my book there. I'll sign it for you and send it to you. You can also get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all of those other places. But I think the best way to reach me would be on my lifewithjamestaylor.com website. Or I also have a website that's Yogic Writing, YOGIC WRITING. And that's where I teach people how to write their life stories.
Love that. And we really enjoyed having you on the show today. And we look forward to having you back down the road for more updates.
Yes, thank you.
And if you ever get that book for that James Taylor thing, let us know.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
And if you get him on your show, you let me know.
We will. We'll do. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks so much for your time.